All right, it is finally out. The OSHA Emergency Temporary Standard was released this morning. You might remember over a month ago, President Biden released an executive summary saying that if you're an employer with 100 or more employees, he said the government was going to enforce vaccinations. And so that's exactly what has been released today. It's a little bit different than what we first imagined. And I also want to point out, there has been a lot of confusion here in the state of Virginia on the difference between the Biden executive order and the Virginia permanent COVID safety standard that was already into effect. So Virginia was the first state in the union to implement an emergency temporary standard for COVID. That was back in July of 2020. That standard became permanent in the state of Virginia in January of 2021. And then in September, again, around the same time that Biden issued his executive order. Actually, I think with Virginia, it was actually a day or two prior to Biden. They updated their permanent COVID safety standard in September of this year. And so a lot of confusion between government, the federal, and state. The state was already into effect, and that applied to all employers in the state of Virginia. Now that the federal is out, this now trumps it. This now takes precedence over anything that Virginia has said. Now they're very similar in what they're saying. Now this particular ETS, or Emergency Temporary Standard, is the federal version, and it now only applies to 100 or more employees. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you are a small business owner right now and you're under 100 employees, you dodged the bullet for now. But what is specifically being said in this 490-page document released by OSHA this morning is that they're specifically saying they're reviewing this for small businesses, and they're looking at the feasibility of enforcing this same regulation on small businesses. Now, what the document is specifically saying here for large businesses, those are 100 or more, is that OSHA, again, nothing I'm going to say here in this video has anything to do with what I believe. What I'm going to be sharing with you is strictly what OSHA believes and not my personal opinions. I don't think anyone wants to really hear that, especially when it comes to, I'm a business owner like many of you, so this could be highly inflammatory for most of us business owners. Again, more regulations coming our way. We have a lot already. This in no way, shape, or form is my personal opinion. I'm sharing only what OSHA is saying and their opinion here. And so OSHA is saying that based on 100 or more, they have done their own feasibility study. They say that employers 100 or more should be able to have no problem adhering to this law. They are looking at small employers right now. They're looking at this for under 100 and seeing what the feasibility is for a small business owner to implement this. So I would expect that that is kind of a shot across the bow for small business owners, if they wouldn't be putting this in there unless they really thought that they were going to expand this mandate to those smaller businesses as well. So brace yourself, buckle up, wear a helmet, and expect to be rattled here if you're a small business owner here in the future. So again, I'm only going to go through this just briefly. If you go to OSHA's website, and I've got it up on my screen right here, they brought this up as of early this morning. The actual final ETS is really not out yet. They've got an unpublished version here, which is pretty much going to be what it's going to be published. But just want to warn you is that there might be some slight changes to this, but it is 490 pages long. It's very dry, but some of the key things I want to point out just real quick. This is, again, for 100 plus employees. And what they're specifically saying in this mandate is that this is not a vaccination mandate. Very humorous, of course. What they're trying to say in this document is they're trying to give business owners of 100 plus employees some flexibility. The flexibility is they're going to give you two choices. They are encouraging employers to implement a mandatory vaccination policy. They want you to do that. They're encouraging you to do that. And what they're saying is this is based on all of their data that they're getting in, that the vaccination is the best way of not spreading COVID as much as if you're not unvaccinated. So they're really encouraging vaccinations, but they're saying, hey, we're not going to force you to get your employees vaccinated. What they're going to say is in this document is that you have another option. That option is if you don't want to enforce it or mandate it, then you can implement at your firm testing. Now, what we initially thought is that the testing cost was going to be the sole responsibility of the employer. Thank goodness that is not the case. So if you are an employer, now if you're a medical firm, it actually says in their ETS that you have to pay for testing. This is different for everyone else except for healthcare. If you're healthcare, you have to pay for testing. If you're not healthcare and you're 100 plus and you do not want to enforce vaccinations on your workforce, you can implement weekly testing. The testing has to be one of the 7 that they have approved, and it has to be done once every 7 days, and it has to be the cost of the employee. A little interesting when you read the standard. Their theory is, or their methodology here, or philosophy is that if employees pay for it, it's an incentive, it's encouraging them to get vaccinated. So that's OSHA's way of really trying to get employees to get vaccinated, because if we make them pay for it, they say, when I say we, I'm speaking for OSHA, if we make them pay for it, then they're going to be more likely to get vaccinated. Now, that's the theory. At least that's what their theory is. So just keep in mind, employers who are medical, that medical ETS that's already out, you have to pay for it. And there's some major differences in there for medical. So if you have questions on the medical ETS, please reach out. I've actually read that. It's a little less than 300 pages long, but a whole different set of guidelines for medical. There's this multi-layered kind of risk management process that you have to go through for medical. And what OSHA is saying for all other employers, 100 plus, they're not going to implement this multi-layered process for you as a business. They're basically saying, get vaccinated. If you don't get vaccinated as employees, they have to pay for it, and they have to wear masks. And so they're really just making it very simple for employers. We're going to have more coming out as I continue to read through this documentation. I will say that there is a lot of fluff in this. When you look at 490 pages, I kind of look at this very similar to the healthcare ETS that was put out a couple months ago. Even though that was under 300 pages, the vast majority of that standard and this standard is a lot of posturing. OSHA is almost expecting, by how they script this, is almost like they're anticipating a lot of lawsuits. And what the vast majority of this ETS standard is, this emergency temporary standard is them saying, we have the authority to do this. We have the justification of doing this because of X. And they're going to give a whole lot of information of explaining why they believe they have the authority and why they have the justification for pushing this mandate on employers. So very interesting read in that regard. Again, we'll be getting more information as time goes on. Feel free to reach out to our team. We have a whole team of safety and OSHA experts. Actually, we have a person on our team that actually used to work for OSHA for a good many years. So we have the expertise in our agency to help really provide the navigation and guidance to really kind of avoid some of these major landmines. Now, I will say OSHA is getting aggressive. Now, what we hope to not see in the reconciliation bill, if you look at the 2,400 pages in that reconciliation bill, and unfortunately that's on my desk as well, you're going to see a lot of funding that has nothing to do with infrastructure. It has nothing to do with helping everyday Americans. There's a whole lot of money going into enforcement, and I can't remember exactly off the top of my head because I read it yesterday. It's about $300 or $400 they have isolated in the reconciliation bill, if it were to pass. It hasn't passed yet, for OSHA to do enforcement. Now, OSHA is already hot on the trail of businesses. We already see, at least in the state of Virginia, a lot of hiring. Now, with Youngkin getting into office, we're not sure how that's going to be possibly reversed, but we have to be reminded that federal OSHA kind of dictates still what Virginia has to do. And actually, Virginia got reprimanded years back for not enforcing federal OSHA guidelines as much as they should have. And actually, federal OSHA specifically was giving Virginia a heck of a lot of criticism for not fining people as much. Now that has changed, and Virginia has been, again, very aggressive in how they enforce safety here in the state of Virginia. So we are already seeing in the state of Virginia and here locally that businesses are getting hit. The federal OSHA and state OSHA, there is a $13,000 to $14,000 initial fine for not following either the Virginia guidelines of COVID safety or the federal government guidelines. So there is some pretty good teeth for non-compliance, but I believe, and our firm here at Midstate believes, that there's a very easy way to be in compliance. And we can help you through that. So don't stress, don't fret. It's a lot to go through, but there's some very easy things that you as an employer can do. We have our HR department, we have our safety department that are really coming together and collaborating on this, giving you as an employer, whether you're small, medium, or large, the knowledge and the know-how of how to move forward with this. So again, this is John Baston. I'm the Chief Growth Officer here at Midstate. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at info@midstatesafety.com, or you can call us 434-528-1001. Thank you and have a wonderful week.